Well, good afternoon. My name is Brenda Hemmelman. I am the Collection Services Librarian at the South Dakota State Library here in Pierre. And one of my responsibilities there is that I go out and do trainings. And so I was invited here today to talk about a database that the State Library has called the Foundation Directory Online. And it is a database for searching for grants. So I just have a few resources to share with you here today. And if there's any questions, then we can always follow up afterwards. So first I wanted to just show you the State Library homepage because we have links on there with a lot of resources. The URL is library.sd.gov, and if you go under our services link here, you will see something called the SDSL LibGuides collection. And I'm pointing this out because this is where we have a page that is specifically for grants resources. And I will send out this information to emails and to Nancy here afterwards, so you'll have the direct links and you won't have to remember how to get here from all kinds of different places. So this is our LibGuides collection, and you can see here we've got grants information tab. So this is where we keep all of our grants information. And we are a funding information network partner to the Foundation Center. So that is why we get this database at the State Library. And so that's that. And then at the bottom, if you scroll down, you will notice some of the information that my colleague Kathleen and I have on there. We go out and do these grants trainings at different conferences and smaller groups. And so rather than email all of our many resources and links and things afterwards, we just decided to put them all on one place. So this is an easy place for you to go and look at some of the handouts that we use for our presentations. And we have a Word document you'll see there with helpful website links. So these are all kinds of different links. I can open it here just so you can kind of get an idea of different websites, different resources that a person can use when they are looking to apply for grants. And we'll see if this will open up for us here. And this is just an easy way so that, again, people don't have to try and write down URLs in the middle of a presentation. And if you get one little thing wrong, of course, it's not going to work. So we'll see if that'll open up for us. But anyway, it's just a lot of different links. Some of the other things we cover in our grants training is not just how to search the database, which is what we'll go do a little demo here today, but also the different kinds of information that you might get when you're looking for grants. So data about your community. What's the graduation rate? How many people are there? How does my community compare to another community if I'm applying for grants? So there's lots of good links in that page there too, to compare and contrast and places to go and where you can get all that employment data and school data and all that kind of stuff. So that's what that page is all about. And then we also have some, as you can see, proposal writing. How do I write a proposal? Project budgets. You know, as a lot of you probably may or may not know, grant writing can be a one-page deal or it can be a 25-page deal. So we've got just some different templates and things for you to look at there. And most of these things come from the Foundation Center. So they do lots of different trainings, and then I usually go on their website and do some of their trainings myself, and then I'm able to pull these resources in and share them with others when I go out and do our trainings. So take a look at that page, and if you have questions, then our email addresses are here on the bottom left, and you can shoot us an email and we'll follow up with you. So that's the State Library page that I wanted to show you. And so as I mentioned, we are a partner with the Foundation Center. So this is a huge organization, several locations throughout the United States, but they are all about grants and funding and proposal writing and just a helpful organization to get you going. They have recently at the Foundation Center and GuideStar, some of you may be familiar with GuideStar, they recently formed a partnership, and they are now, you'll see on the website, it says Foundation Center by Candid. So eventually over the next year or so, that is what they will be called, is Candid. So for now, it'll say GuideStar by Candid. If you go to the GuideStar website, and it'll be Foundation Center by Candid. So as they continue their merge and change their website and all that stuff, it'll be a different look probably in about a year or so. And they'll change some of their trainings and whatnot. So this website and the Foundation Center, they have partners throughout the United States and the world, actually, many libraries and other organizations that are considered their partners. So the State Library here in Pierre is a partner, and Dakota State University Library in Madison is also a partner. So what that means is that our two entities provide the Foundation Directory online database at no charge. The only kind of caveat, bummer kind of a thing I would say, is that people actually have to come to the libraries to use the database. So that's part of the agreement with the Foundation Center. And we know in South Dakota it's kind of hard for people to travel to actually come to those locations. So when I go out and do these trainings, I make it a point to offer to do some searching for those people who actually make the effort to come to the trainings. So if there are any ideas that you have for a grant and you'd like to, hey, I would really want to see what that Foundation Directory online has, shoot me an email. My email address is on that page, like you said, and I'll be glad to do some searching of the database for you. So what I would do is I would search the database, create a Word document of some possibilities, and then send that information to you. And then you would follow up and visit those websites and check out all the information and see if it's a viable option for you. So I'm happy to do that. But just I'm highlighting the Foundation Center website just because the website also has lots of great information, and this is all free if you just go to their website. So you can find lots of information on improving your skills as far as doing those proposals. You're finding funding there. Yeah, they've got obviously the directory online. Different corporations can also subscribe to this database. So if you had a big organization in town, or if you wanted to partner with some other organizations and actually purchase your own subscription to that, you could. So that's always an option as well. And they also have just some different, information on there about what's going on in the world with grants and foundations and anything that's affecting giving. Like several years ago when the recession was in place, a lot of foundations kind of backed off a little bit on their funding until they could kind of see where it was going and getting back on their feet. So a lot of information there. So I would just invite you to go to that website and just play around and check things out there. The other website I wanted to highlight is also part of the Foundation Center in Candid. It's called Grant Space, and it's another website, as you can see. And I like to highlight this one because it's a little, I would say, more concise as far as the information that it presents. So maybe a little bit less overwhelming than the Foundation Center website, but this is definitely a good one to look at. And the thing that I like about this one especially is that they've got all these trainings. So you can see the places. This is where the Foundation Center has offices, and a lot of times they will do trainings live, but they will also do trainings that are webinar based. So you can go in and do some different webinars. You'll see the online trainings there. Many of them are free. So I would highly recommend that you go check those out. And that's where you'll get your proposal writing basics and how to plan your budget, things like that. So these are all free webinars that you can check out, so you can see where the different titles, and some of them are for a fee, but Some of those may be interesting to you too, even if they do have a fee. So check those out. And a lot of times they will, let's say, here's one on May 1st, this Introduction to Corporate Giving. Well, maybe I have something else going on at that time, but even if I sign up, if I register for the webinar, they will usually send you a link to the recording, just like we're recording here today. So they'll send you a link to the recording, and then you can go in and view that at your own leisure when you do have time to do that. So check out all of those great webinars that they have. I do them periodically once a month just to keep up with my knowledge of what's out there as well. And the other thing I really, really, really like about GrantSpace is the resources that they have. So they have this great knowledge base for people that would ask questions of the GrantSpace and the Foundation Center, and so they have created this knowledge base of questions that people have asked and answers. And I love their sample documents. So these are different things that people have actually used when they are in the grant process. So you'll see some examples of cover letters, letters of inquiry. Sometimes when you are applying to a foundation, they will require some sort of a letter of inquiry. So here's some templates for you. Proposals, as you can see, proposal budgets. So these are all templates that you can go in and use if you were ever looking to apply for a grant. And so you just basically take the ideas that these templates are presenting and make it your own, put in your own information, your own projects, things like that. So definitely check out those sample documents. I think that's the best part of this website. All right, so one of the main things I wanted to show you today is the Foundation Directory online. And so when I go out and do trainings, I, as a trainer, am able to request an off-site username and password so that I can go out and demonstrate this database, because as I said, you know, it's only available in the organization. So this is how I'm able to go out and show you what it looks like on the outside world, outside of the library. So we are going to go ahead, and here on this page too is the information if you were ever interested in gathering some people together, or maybe your own organization would want to get a subscription to this database. All the information is here on this main page. And there are different levels. The State Library and Dakota State University has what we call the professional level. But then there's also an essential level, which is $50 a month. So, you know, take a look at that and see if that's something you're interested in. If it would be beneficial to you to have your own subscription, they would offer that as well. All right. Good question.
There probably is.
There probably is. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and log in and just do a little demo search so that you can see what everything looks like. Okay, so this is the database, and they offer a couple different ways to search. You know, everybody's used to doing the Google search type things, just plugging your keywords into a search box. So that's what they have here right on the main page. So you can, as you can see, there's some examples there. If I want to start a ballet school in New York City or an animal shelter in Portland, Maine, you can do that type of a search in there and just hit the search button and see what you've got. You'll notice here that the database also includes U.S. federal funders, so on the federal government level. Didn't used to do that, so that's a new feature they've added. But if you are a little overwhelmed with that and you don't want to include U.S. federal funders, you can uncheck that box, and then it would eliminate the federal funders from your searching. So when I search the database, I tend to like to go to the advanced search, just because it gives me a little more options as far as what I want to do. So I've got my subject area, geographic. If I wanted to put in a population, whether it's kids or, you know, the Native American population, anything like that, I can be specific as to what I want to do there. And I usually don't worry too much about organization name. You can search for a specific organization, for example, the South Dakota Community Foundation. I could search for that, and then it would bring up their record and show me what the South Dakota Community Foundation funds and things like that. So, but I usually stick to these main three, the subject area, the geographic focus, and sometimes the population served. Sometimes I won't even use that one. So let's just pretend today I decided, quickly before I go into my actual search, this is actually why I like the advanced search, because as you can see, if when I clicked in that box, it opened up all these different subject areas. So if I'm not exactly sure what I want to use for my keywords, but I know that my search is education related, I can click under education and it opens up all these other areas. So then I can just click away and decide what I want to use there. So this is the main reason why I really like the advanced search, is it just opens up more options, especially if I'm not exactly sure what my focus is yet. So it will just open up lots of different areas for me. So today I decided to, that I wanted to, since it's finally spring, or it feels like in South Dakota, I decided, well, let's build a new playground somewhere. So I'm gonna use my subject area, and if I can spell correctly. So if I typed in playground, you know, it comes up with sports and recreation, so I could click on that, and you know, I can go with, I can click all three of these if I want, or I can just click playgrounds. And as far as the geographic focus, now you notice on some of their examples, they one of them was something, a ballet school in New York City. So the larger population areas, you could do New York City or Chicago. But for South Dakota, we're just going to keep it as South Dakota. I mean, even Sioux Falls, I don't think would really yield us very good results. So kind of depends on where you're located, but if we're South Dakota, we're just gonna use this, and we'll see what we come up with. So I'm gonna keep it really general in hopes that I get a few hits, and you know, if I went even more and more specific, then that might lessen my number of hits, but we'll see what we get here. I might get thousands, and in that case I would want to go back and limit things a little bit. All right. And just quickly too, on the bottom here, you'll see you can also tell it what kind of grant amount you're looking for. Maybe I only want $2,000, so I can tell it down here where I want to go with that. So there's different areas also on the bottom where you can go. And that is if you got 3,450 hits, then of course you would want to go and limit things down a little bit. So. But for my really, really general search, you can see I've got 5 grant makers, 22 grants related to that, 11 recipients, and then this one here on the end, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's just 990 tax forms. So any foundation that gives out money is required by the IRS to file a 990 form, and 990 forms you can find anywhere. You don't have to be logged into a database or anything like that. You can find 990 information anywhere. So they just provide all that. So let's take a look at what one of these records looks like. So I've got 5 grant makers, and that's where you'd probably want to start, because I want to find out what these grant makers are doing. So we've got a few in South Dakota, and the one in Delaware and DC, obviously they fund nationally, so that's why they came up. But let's take a look at the Kurovich Foundation from Rapid City. All right, so once we get into the information here, and I'm going to try and see if I can I move this little, there we go. You can move that little guy around. So you'll see real quickly here, once I click on any foundation, you'll see we've got some tools up here in the top. So if you are at a library somewhere and you pull one of these up and say, oh, that's a really good record, I don't want to copy down everything in this record. So you can email yourself a PDF of the profile, and everything included that we look at here today will be included in that PDF. So that's a nice thing. And if you're, let's say you're sitting up at the state library and you've got a USB drive and you just want to save a bunch of these to a USB drive, you can download a PDF and then save it to a USB drive as well. So those are some nice options you've got there. So here's the Vakurovich Foundation. We're going to go back to these maps in just a little bit, but these are really cool because it tells you the main areas where this foundation is funding and the monetary value here. And it also shows you on the United States map here what states it funds. So it doesn't just fund in South Dakota. There's 370 in South Dakota, but also, as you can see, it's funding in other states as well. And then how big are the grants over here on this chart? So you can see kind of what the most popular kind of grant amount is that this foundation is funding. So we'll go back and take a look at those in just a minute, but I want to get to the main flux of what the record indicates here for this particular foundation. So you've got over here on the left-hand side all these different areas that you can scroll to when you're looking at these grants. And so usually when I'm searching the database, there's a couple things I want to know first of all, and mostly to tell me whether I want to continue looking at this foundation or not. And the first one is the giving limitations and the applications. So I'm going to go straight there because this is always very helpful, especially in the giving limitations area. So this is the first place I'm going to go. It says giving primarily in western South Dakota with emphasis on Rapid City and the Black Hills. Okay, so even if I'm in Pierre, and it says Western South Dakota, emphasis on Rapid City and the Black Hills, I would not throw this one out yet, just because when we looked at that map, we obviously saw from that map that they fund even outside of South Dakota. So just because they have a few giving limitations here, I wouldn't necessarily throw this one out. I would probably go ahead and put it on my potential list. But this is where I would go for sure first to look at these, because some of them will say, we absolutely only fund by invitation only. So we've got our set group of people that we like to give money to, and we don't want to give money to anybody else. So if that's something that is said in the giving limitations, then I'm not going to waste any more time on this one. I'm going to move on to the next one. And sometimes it'll say, well, I only give in, you know, if it's especially if it's a family foundation, like Millbank, something, there's a family foundation in Millbank, they only fund in Millbank, South Dakota. So I'll move on from that too. So this is just a nice thing where you can look. And the other most important thing you look at is the applications and the RFP. So what is their process? What do I have to do in order to be looked at as a possible somebody that they would fund? So the applicant should submit the following. Okay, who's your contact person, your copy of your IRS determination letter. Every of these foundations in the foundation directory online, you have to be 501c3 nonprofit. They will require that information. They will require that document from the IRS saying that you are a 501c3. And if you're not, they probably will just throw your application out and throw it in the garbage. So we hate to say that, but sometimes a lot of these will get thousands and thousands of grant requests every year. So that's these application information is how they weed those out. So, okay, what else have we got here? So signature and title of Chief Executive Officer, their initial approach, you can submit a letter of inquiry, and if you don't know what that's about, then you go to grantspace.org and pull up one of those templates and use one of those letter of inquiries. And then so you can send it to them. Copies of proposal. We emphasize in our trainings when you see that they want 6 copies of the proposal, or I saw one the other day that required 14, you give them 14 copies or you give them 6 copies, because if they don't get what they asked for, then they're going to say, oh, this place only provided 4, we wanted 6, so they go to the bottom of the pile. If they say we want the applications paper clipped together and you staple them together, That's another black mark. So they use all these little things because they get so many requests. So these are just their way of kind of weeding things out. So make sure you pay attention to those, that information on the application. Other things to look at, who's who. This I like because it gives you who are the names of the people in this organization. And many of you have heard of the website LinkedIn. So if any of these people had a LinkedIn profile, you would see that little LinkedIn icon. And so you could contact them via LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn and they're on LinkedIn, you could make contact with them via LinkedIn, and you could say, hey, you know, I saw this information, I'm interested in applying for a grant, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Would it be a possibility, do you think? So any of those contacts that you can make, just to kind of put a name to face kind of an idea, or even word of mouth. Hey, I know Susie over here, and Susie knows Eric Abrahamson, so maybe she can connect me up with Eric, and so use those contacts and use this information that's on here. So that's another good piece of information that is included in these records. And then, of course, it will give you what their interests are, their funding interests, so their subject areas, where they fund, the support strategies, all that kind of stuff. And then, this is nice too, the other funders to consider. So if the Vukovich Foundation maybe isn't a viable option for you, then maybe you would want to contact some of these other ones. And again, you would look at the foundation, look at the same information that we're looking at here for this particular one, and see again if it might be a viable option. So lots of good information in this database that you can look at. And I usually go through pretty much everything when I'm looking at it just to make sure that it's a viable option. So let's go back up to these little graphs at the top. And like I said, we noticed earlier that even though it says Western South Dakota, the Black Hills, obviously they're funding elsewhere. So we can find out exactly where they're funding and who they're giving money to. Obviously South Dakota is the biggest. So we can see that they have funded 370 grants in South Dakota. And you can just drill down into these maps and find out all kinds of information. So if we click on South Dakota again, then we're going to get the county map. So we can find out what counties. Well, let's see what they're funding in Dewey County, South Dakota. So they gave $175,000 to the Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation. And if we click on that, we'll find out, again, even more information. So in 2012 and 2015, they got some grant funding.
Does it say for what though?
Yes, you can find that out. So yeah, 100,000 and 75,000. So again, we keep drilling into it, and hopefully they might give more information, and sometimes they don't. So this is just youth and family service programs. So yep, you can find out about that. And then you could even find out further if you wanted to take a look at that IRS 990. Mm-hmm. There may even be more detail in that IRS 990 that they had to submit. To give a little more information about what they funded here. So we know that they are doing that for the Cheyenne River Reservation. So again, you can just kind of drill down into all these organizations and find out how much they gave, what they gave it for, and so on. And the same thing with the other two graphs there. Oh, this took me way too far. Way far back that I wanted to go, but those other maps that included up there, you could find out, you know, the money, where the money's going, and those types of things. So that is the main information that I wanted to present today. So if there's any questions here in the room, or if you've got questions online, I don't know if we can take those, or they can email them to the contact here at the Right Turn, and we'll get those too.
I have one question. I noticed that you have like a 2-hour training.
Mm-hmm.
When is that available?
So we are doing that anytime, you know, people contact us. We've done it at conferences before. We've done it, a couple of libraries in the state had us come and just do it. And that's kind of a full-blown thing. My colleague Kathleen has the experience in writing grants. So she will go through, the do's and don'ts of actually writing a grant, the little tips like being that 501c3, or if you're not, how to apply to be a 501c3. And then I go in a little more in-depth into the data resources. So where to find that population data, where to find that school data, and all the different links and websites that you can go to find that.
So each agency should contact you directly? You don't have one like once a month every?
We haven't gone out for, I think last year we went out a few times, but yeah, if they contact us directly and if they wanted us to come and if it works in our schedule, we will travel. We don't have to just do it in Pierre. We've been to Mitchell, we've been up to even Newell. A couple of years ago, we went up to Little Newell, South Dakota, to the library there and did the presentation there. So yeah, anybody can contact us, and if it works out with everybody's schedules, we would be happy to take our show on the road.
And then you say you work with people to come, they can come right to the state library and work with you also?
Correct. Yep. Anytime. Give us a call ahead of time to make sure I'm there. I'll sit down with people and give them the 5 or 10 minute refresher on how to search the database, and then they can have all day if they want. I've had people come up and just.
Or we can email you.
Yep. You can certainly email me too. Absolutely. So.
And your hours are Monday through Friday,
Yeah.
8 to 5,
Yes,
right?
Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Yep, we've had people come up and just sit all day and look at the database, and yeah, right?
Well, that was amazing information, and that was only like one foundation. I mean, if you
Right.
get going.
Yes, and there are probably, I don't even know how many. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of foundations in this database, and they update them very frequently. Every year, yep, they are updated. In fact, on some of them, I don't know if I'll be able to find an example, but it will say at the top when the last update was on a lot of these. I don't know, I might have picked too big of a one. Since they have a lot of different areas, but here we go. So the profile last updated for the Gates Foundation was in February of this year, and they really try to do that on a yearly basis. And a lot of these bigger foundations voluntarily, they just probably get some sort of an email that says it's time to update your information, and they fill out the information and submit it, and so it just makes it really easy.
Can you search for just foundations in South Dakota?
You can, yeah. So sometimes if you, let me see where I want to go here. You can search for specific names, like if we wanted to do, let me go to the advanced search. If we wanted to do South Dakota Community Foundation, or let's see.
Like if you
Let's
just do South Dakota.
yeah, just out of curiosity, let's just put in South Dakota and see what comes up. Maybe it'll say, nope, I need more information. Or maybe not. So yeah, this looks like a good list. I just put in South Dakota for the geographic location. And it looks like these are all, let's go ahead and view all, 261. So yep, these are all in South Dakota. So yeah, that's a good Grenville. I haven't heard of Grenville, so. Lots of different ones. So yes, that's a great question, and yeah, good way to use the database just to search for what ones are in South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions before we wrap up?
Deborah, do you have any questions? Is there a way that she can unmute to ask?
her mic is out of date. She's been texting.
Oh, okay.
I don't
Does she
think
have
she
any
has
questions by text? Okay.
That's cool.
But then we'll open it. And say she didn't chat.
Guys, we can check the chat. Where is it? Here? There you go, in the chat. Whoops.
Yep.
I would like
She
to
was-
attend
she
to our
said, yeah,
training.
There we go.
She'd like to attend to our training.
No questions.
Oh, nice.
Okay, very good.
Well, maybe sometime we could even plan a 2-hour training right here and have providers
Yeah,
come.
that would be
That way
great.
you're not doing it the same thing like 4 times for all of us.
Yeah, that would be
Okay,
super.
That's something we could look
Super,
into.
super. I'm just going to go back to the state library page and scroll down to where my email address is. So it's just brenda.hemmelman@state.sd.us. So
This will all be sent to us though, right?
yeah,
Oh,
yep,
yeah.
you bet. So I'll send out some information with all the, again, reminding you of where the URLs are for these pages, so you don't have to remember to write everything down. So
Thank you.
all right,
Brenda.
thank
Yes,
you.
Brenda.